Hello, everyone. I have the Thursday evening workout review up here. We have base camp lower cadence tempo with high cadence surges today. And I have Ken McDonald up here for review. Ken, thanks so much for joining the ride. Always love seeing you. And great ride today. Thanks for letting me review your file. So if we look at it, we had an hour planned and he did just about that. We had 55 TSS planned for the ride and he did 67. And you can see where that's coming from. If you watched Tim's review this morning, he talked about the intensity factor. And so the planned intensity factor for the ride was 0.74, which actually is a little bit higher than our Tuesday, Thursday rides that we've had so far in cycle one. Ken's completed intensity factor was 0.81. And so the scale for intensity factor is basically 1.0 is the hardest you can go for an hour. So we rode for an hour and you can see 0.81, so 81% of that is pretty hard, and a little bit more than planned, but we'll talk about why. He still turned it great, so he didn't do too much. But we did the workout in incline mode today. And so we have been doing a lot of our workouts, our Tuesday, Thursday workouts in erg mode, just to kind of get used to the zones and the feel of what endurance is supposed to feel like. Typically, if we just let everybody, ride in free ride or incline, a lot of people don't know how easy aerobic riding should feel. And we tend to end up riding too hard. But we are learning that feel now. It's been a couple weeks since you've done your FTP test and set your zones. And we suggested riding in incline mode today to be able to learn how to control your power in the range of tempo, for one. We're starting to extend the amount of tempo riding we're going to be doing. So today we had a 30-minute interval, which is the longest one we've done so far. But also when we do the challenge this weekend on Saturday, you are not going to load a workout. You're going to be riding the course in sim mode and free ride mode. So the trainer is not going to control your effort. There's no option for erg or even incline. So you need to be able to feel the effort, feel the aerobic, whether that's zone 2, high zone 2, low zone 3, whatever it may be. But you need to be able to feel that and also control your efforts when you're moving around in the group. So that's kind of what we practiced today. Also, again, going back to our training zones, they're based on how you set your FTP after your test a few weeks ago. But again, the zones are pretty big. And so Zwift, when we do it, there is always going to put you in the middle of that range. And so again, look at the workout here. You can see the dark blue and the light blue will show you the range for what the power targets. And tempo we think of as zone 3 if you're using your 6-zone model. Most of what we've done has been zone 2, touching a little bit of tempo zone 3 at the end of the workouts to start to develop that little bit of muscular endurance and fatigue resistance. So anyway, today was fun because we got to do a little bit more work. Again, you saw that higher intensity factor for the ride and a little bit higher TSS. So I am just looking, before I had the workout behind here, the goal of today's workout was control. And you can see just looking at Ken's pink lines, he did the whole thing in incline and he had excellent control. I would not say at any point it looked like he was really struggling. And you can see that because you don't see any big dips in power where he looks like he's trying to chase it. And that's really what we want. Now he is above range. And so that tells me that he was either feeling exceptional tonight, or his FTP might have increased since the last time he tested. So either way, it doesn't look like he was working too hard for this effort. Exactly. It's not like so sometimes you'll see you start out really hard and then you end up fading halfway and you see the power gently start to fall. But he did the opposite. He was able to definitely maintain his effort throughout the 30-minute interval and even get a little bit stronger in the last half. So the last couple intervals, you can see the power is a little bit higher, even as surges are a little bit higher, but he was following our directions to not go too crazy today. It's easy, especially when we do these surges, they're only 30 seconds at FTP and it's easy to go really hard. They're not meant to be like anaerobic capacity efforts or like all out surges. At some point, we will do hard 30-second intervals, but we're not there yet. The whole point of today was to start to develop that extended muscular endurance for the tempos. So we want those tempo specific adaptations. We also want to do the surges, one, to continue to work on that cadence versatility. So learning how to get your body to naturally spin up to higher power. So higher cadence equals more watts. And then drift back down. So you see this, again, we always say cycling is dynamic. So when you're out there riding and you need to catch on to a group or you're trying to attack or whatever, being able to wind it up and spin it up to the higher watts and then drift back down to your pace to maintain your position or whatever. That happens a lot. And so we're really just practicing that. So not going super hard and then super easy, super hard, super easy. Go back to that, like what we talked about with being smooth in the transition, improve your cycling economy and your efficiency too. So Ken did a really nice job with that. He didn't go too hard in the surges. Metabolically speaking, what we're doing is also introducing a little bit of lactate in your system. So as we start to get into more tempo riding, the longer you go, the more muscle recruitment you're going to have, and your body is going to also start to oxidize a little bit more carbohydrate, even at this aerobic intensity. So when you do that, you start to generate some lactate, but your body needs to manage that lactate. It's not a ton of it, and that's why we're at this lower tempo intensity. It's just a little bit, and it's pretty easy for your body to manage, at least in shorter durations now. But what we want to do is really emphasize that part of your physiology and train your body to be able to handle that, to manage it, to tolerate it. There's so many different words you can use, but I don't want to get too bogged down in the details of it. But essentially, when you are doing those surges, you're creating a little bit more lactate from carbohydrate utilization, and then your body's going to shuttle it out and use it in your slow twitch muscle fibers, and use it as another fuel source. So it's pretty cool. So that's kind of what we're emphasizing with the tempo with surges today. There's so many different variations of tempo, and it's great race simulation, especially we talked about with gravel racing. If you ever go back and look at a race file, you see you do a lot of tempo riding. So this is great for that. You don't always just have to do like 2 by 20 minutes of steady state tempo. That's okay sometimes, but it's really nice to be able to vary it up, use some of these other elements to emphasize the physiological adaptations that we're looking for specifically with tempo. Again, those are endurance adaptations, but we get a little bit more compared to zone 2. However, we get a little bit more fatigue too. So we do want to be careful about how much tempo we're doing. Again, in our program, we're doing it twice a week, sometimes 3 times per week, but the progression and the impulse of it it's in the training plan is very intentional. So the last piece of advice, or one of the last pieces of advice we gave today, is to just be patient with the tempo. So, rather than ramping the effort up, it's not supposed to feel that hard, especially again, because some of the lower cadence keeps your heart rate lower. So it doesn't feel that hard, but over time, because it is a more muscular effort, your legs are going to start to fatigue. And like we said, it feels pretty easy until it doesn't. And then you're like, oh boy, it's hard to maintain. And so we don't want to quite get there yet. It's okay if it feels easy, especially given where we are in this training cycle and what we have coming up this weekend, which is a 100K challenge. So today was just doing enough, not needing to do too much. And if you look at Ken's file, you can see he did exactly that. Again, he was always in control. He didn't like greatly ramp it up towards the end, a little bit more in those 30-second surges, but really it's not too much higher. So that was an excellent job. And you can tell he was feeling good. His heart rate, you can see it just like looking at the red line, you can see it gradually increasing over the 30 minutes. That's something we definitely want to watch as we improve our fitness, our aerobic fitness. Um, it didn't look like it really decoupled too much. But it is something that, as you start doing longer intervals, we want to see that point in your intervals where is your heart rate drifting up higher compared to your power. Now, for the overall ride, his power to heart rate is 5.67. Again, it's not truly a steady state ride, so not the best measure to look. You can look at efficiency factor, and he's at 1.67. This is going to be using normalized power divided by your average heart rate for the session. So that's another metric you can track. And I looked at his efficiency factor for Tuesday, and Tuesday he was at 1.71. For the tempo interval, we did 12 minutes of tempo on Tuesday. If I just select his tempo interval today, it was 30 minutes and his efficiency factor was actually a little bit higher than it was on Tuesday, and he did 1.76. So that's good. Again, it's only 2 workouts in 1 week, so you can't gain a lot of insight from that, but it is another metric you can look at over time as we start to do more of these longer intervals. I will say, though, that on Tuesday, I wrote this down, Ken did 12 minutes of tempo at an average heart rate of 144 and a normalized power of 246. And today he did he did 30 minutes of tempo at an average power of 250, normalized power of 251. So we're counting those surges in there. It elevates the normalized power. And heart rate of 143, which is actually lower than Tuesday. So that's a good sign. Again, just 2 workouts that we're, just casually comparing, but things are trending in the right direction. I will say that. Last thing I want to look at is if I just look at the whole workout again, I'm going to scroll down in my view here, and I can look at the time and zone. So if I look at his time and zone for his power, again, he had 20 minutes in zone 2, 18 minutes of tempo zone 3. It does look like he was creeping up, right? Like you saw that he was over his zone. So creeping up into sweet spot, 14 minutes there. That's the danger of tempo. And I would say, again, it looked like Ken was really in control. And like I said, he either felt really exceptionally good today and was making that kind of sweet spot power where it really should have been tempo, but also maybe his FTP is just higher now. So if you look at his power or his heart rate, you can see that he had 14 minutes in his zone 2, 43 minutes in zone 3, but his range, if I look at it, is 130 to 146 beats per minute, and he averaged 136. So, I would be interested, Ken, in seeing your next test. Like, what is your threshold power and your threshold heart rate? Let's make sure we get those set for the next training cycle, because we are going to be doing more of this type of work, and we definitely want to have you training in the right zones. It looks like you have gained a little bit of fitness, and you had a great workout today. So no worries there. This Saturday, everybody, don't worry, you don't have to ride 3 hours of tempo, but now you kind of know what it feels like. And if you need to do bits of tempo here and there to pace with the group, you can do it. You did 30 minutes today, and probably many of you, like Ken did, higher average power today for longer at the same effort. And like Ken even did a little bit lower heart rate today. So that's a great sign. Carry that into Saturday. And again, just use it as a learning opportunity to put into practice in free ride mode with the group, all the things that you're learning on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we will see you Saturday.